Welcome everyone to Visionary Psychics. I'm Sara Wiseman, and we are here today with one of our visionary psychics, Courtney Carnrite. Welcome, Courtney, to this recording sessions that we're doing for folks so they can learn about what you do and kind of what this whole spiritual intuition thing is. It's interesting. So we had just started recording,
Yeah.
and we got cut off, and sometimes, as we both know, when electronics go funny, it's the spirit world trying to come in. And so we just stated to the spirit world, hey guys, we want to do our session. And so hopefully we'll, yeah. But some of the things you were talking about is that you had these experiences when you were younger of getting some diagnoses and then really finding that those didn't fit how you viewed yourself, and finding a psychologist person to work with who kind of identified what was really going on for you. You were having psychic, intuitive, spiritual experiences, and Western medicine didn't have the correct name for it. And so tell us a little bit about how you started to see your way clear from that path, like getting this label and then realizing, like, thank you for the label, but that's not what's really happening. What has that been like for you?
Well, it was a long journey. I'd say it was only maybe 4 or 5 years ago that I really started to believe that I was okay. I believed in myself. I just didn't believe that I was okay. And so along the process, I worked with a psychologist, I worked with a shaman, I worked with herbal medicine, flower essences, which I was studying myself. And in essence, working with the shaman was me discovering what that was as well. And then the crystals always just spoke to me, came home to me. They were probably my first medicine, so to speak. I find them very high vibration, as well as being kind of soft and dense at the same time. So it's like, to me, it's the earth plane and like upper world meeting it together.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool way of looking at it. So I have this crystal. It's just like a heart shape, but what's somebody sent me this. Actually, one of the people that did this program sent me this a long time ago, and so often, not now so much, but for many years when I was doing readings, the first thing I would do is just, this is my crystal. This is the one that I held, and I'm realizing, like, it's I don't know if absorb, but it's experience with me or help me through so much. And then I don't know if I can show this right, but like in here, like, see this big crystal in the back of me?
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know.
certainly
So
do.
we have a bunch of those. My husband went to here in the US, Tucson.
Yeah.
And so they are like all over the house, and I kind of forget, they're all over the yard, they're all over the house, and I kind of forget, like, oh, well, these power centers are here, and what if they weren't?
Around you. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with you, and you've also talked about, like, working with flower essences and herbal essences, and that you said that they create, they're another way of entering the field. Tell us a little bit more about how you connect to, yeah, go ahead.
Essences interact with your energetic body. It's an attempt to, like, capture the essence of the plant. So let's say you were sitting with the plant outside and just relaxing beside it, the way you feel, the kind of thoughts you're having, your almost even your desires, where you're headed somewhere in your, like, heart and mind. It's about, like, trying to wrap yourself around with that same energy when you're not with the actual plant. So you're kind of capturing its essence. It's kind of bizarre. Do you know that movie Perfume?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Anyway, it's kind of a dark film, so I shouldn't even bring it up. But it's you basically put live plant matter into water, and you put it under sunshine, moonlight, both, and allow for the vibration or the life force is what it really
Yes.
feels like to move into the water. And then you can kind of capture that, but you need live water. So you can't use distilled water because
Right.
it doesn't really have a life force to connect to. And then you obviously stabilize it with alcohol, or you can make glycerite for kids or people who don't want to have alcohol or can't.
Mhm.
And there's this vibrational medicine. And I do not at all believe you have to ingest it at every, like
Mhm.
you can really put it on your chakras or your energy centers, you know, where you need it.
Yeah, it's like finding the energetic essence of that. I'm going to call it a being, each plant as a
Yeah,
being or a
Devic-
being essence.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then sort of allowing yourself to have a vibrational matching with that essence or being is kind of the how I'm thinking
That's
about it.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yarrow, like yellow, white yarrow flowers, they're excellent at protecting your energetic bubble or your sphere. So
Hmm.
it allows you to feel like, especially if you're a reader or if you're just highly sensitive when you're going out into the world, having a little bit of that around you or on you, in you, basically,
Hmm.
allows you to be a little bit more protected, but also be, you know, it doesn't prevent you from being present. It just
Right.
feel your own bubble so that you're kind of safe, protected, and feel
I-
confident. And especially when I was transitioning from being in the allopathic world of Western medicine to these more like, I'd say, natural, organic
mhm,
ways of
mhm.
being for all life forms, but humans, I really felt I needed that to feel like kind of safe walking in the world, because at that time, especially, I didn't really have the tools to manage energy, my own or someone else's. So it was a real gift to have a plant being help me through that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us and for all the people listening, this idea of how do you navigate the world when your sensitivities are so open and um, yeah, like you have to figure it out at some point. Otherwise, you're just empath, 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 taking the pain of the world on over and over, and um, that's okay for a little while, but at a certain point, you have to allow yourself to become transparent. Like the pain goes through you, it doesn't stick to you. So,
Yeah.
well,
It was, and
go ahead.
sometimes just picking up stuff you don't need to know, you
Yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
just like
yeah,
to do with this information. I have it about someone. They haven't asked me for anything. So
right.
there's boundaries that I think are really healthy that need to be cultivated. And I think that
Yeah.
helps with that.
What did you find? My experience was kind of like, um, well, I had a near-death experience, which was my uh, kind of catalyst to exploring this. And then as I started exploring different practices, it felt like, and you probably have this too, like for the most part, and not like I'm some know-it-all at all, but I think a lot of people, like I've already done this.
You're pretty knowledgeable. I wouldn't call you know-it-all. I'd call you a master. You're like,
Well, I don't know. I'm sure I'm not a master, but that idea, like many lifetimes doing this stuff, like for you, like when you picked up the first crystal, you're like, oh, I know how this works. This memory. Do you have any particular past lives that
I'm sure like the witch is allowed to
mhm.
like breathe and live and have room in this lifetime. I had like like irrational fears of water and fire.
Yeah.
Like I went on a cruise when I was 16. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so uncomfortable. And I could see land the whole time, but I was just scared.
Yeah.
And fire too. Like I don't, and then as I became myself, I was so engrossed in like herbal medicine. I studied to be a doula. You know, I kind of, the only thing that's outside of that classic witch paradigm
Mhm.
of, you know, Northern Europe is probably yoga and how much I love
Mhm.
yoga.
Mhm.
And in general, I like to study kind of all sorts of spiritual paths
Yeah.
and religions or faiths, you could say, you're interested in knowing about. But so that kind of moves aside into a different zone. But herbs, midwifery, I seriously thought about, like the crystal energy, the
Mhm.
kind of potions, the cat. I've got the cat.
I wish I had, like, we have a little Lhasa Apso, very ancient dog that would not allow a cat, but
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Well, my
Um,
cat doesn't like anything else either. She doesn't want
right.
cats around. She doesn't want dogs around. She barely wants people around.
She
So.
just wants to be helping you. Yeah. Well, that's interesting because so if say you came from past life Celtic or European style, pagan style, druid, some of that. I'm not using all the right words. And then other people, like my husband comes from the traditions more of energy healing, Kundalini, yoga, that style. And then still other people will come from something different, like depending on where our past lives were in different pockets of the world.
Well,
And then go ahead.
I
No, go
definitely
ahead.
have perspective. I work a lot with Anubis,
Mhm. Yes.
yeah, and he helps me a lot when I move into the Akashic records or when
Mhm.
I'm helping people on their soul journey, essentially. So
Mhm.
he helps me, support them in their bigger healings, like breaking patterns and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Big
Mhm.
work I do. So I have no idea if there's Egyptian lineage or not, but I really connect to what I would call the ancient ones. And
Yes.
they're kind of, yeah. So they kind of
What
are
um
gateways and
what things do you feel are like I some things feel like it's not my job or it's not my area to study. Like there's a lot of people who work on, say, like the energetic grids of the planet, and I think that's amazing. And yet I'm pretty much told, like, no, that's not for you. You're supposed to be doing journeying style work more. What comes to you? Like, what's your
no, I
easiest, best, and what's your like one you're like, nah, that's not for me so much?
so the medical intuitive I tend to avoid. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was all the years in herbal medicine and kind of just like being okay with not dealing with people's illnesses as much
Yeah.
anymore. And just
Yeah.
being like, okay, I want to help you progress forward. If that comes up there, they don't necessarily want to scan or assess
Mm-hmm.
their energy body or their body. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of avoid that. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the crystals are my first kind of connection. And I still really feel like I'm just a vessel for them to move around and go where they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And channeling is just a very natural gift. And it took me a long time to understand that I was channeling. When I do the work, I'm always kind of channeling,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether it be someone's ancestors, someone guide, my own. And then I feel like figuring out the ley lines is a little much for my brain. Like I don't necessarily love doing all the like technical study, but
Mm-hmm.
I will go out and practice it. I'll go out to the land and I'll sing to it and I'll drum to it and I'll move energy
Mm-hmm.
with my own energy and kind of connect and send prayers and clear, but I
Right.
don't necessarily try to figure all that stuff out.
Yeah. Well, and it's always fascinating to me, like this idea of like I'll be out, say, I like to go in nature a lot. I'll be out in a field. And before this work, I just thought a field is, just I'm in a field. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm with millions of beings. Like,
Yeah, totally.
like wow.
It's overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, it's like, huh, this is like how it always is. Where, or if a person that didn't know what a tree was came and saw all these trees living amongst us, they'd be like, why are you people not understanding what
Yeah.
this is? These are beings right by your house, just like giants or something. And Yeah, conscious beings. So it's so fascinating that here we are with all of
When I
this.
was a little girl, I lived on the prairies and I would have to walk across the field to my school. So this is like maybe 2 city blocks, like nothing major, but when you're like 6 to 8 years old, it's massive, right?
Yeah.
But when I was in grade 1, so I don't know, I was a little bit younger when I started school, so maybe 5 or something. I would zigzag across the field. And what I was doing is I was listening for like the bugs and the animals. And I was like trying not to step on anything,
Yeah.
but I had a
Yeah.
real consciousness or awareness of their existence.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that disappeared for a long time. It really did. Like the classic thing of growing out of childhood, being told certain things don't exist, like all that happened to me.
Hmm.
But then you come back to a space where you're willing to be open and to feel and sense and connect and
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting how we find our path. I know for me, after right on the heels of the near death experience, um, then I started doing ecstatic dance. Like it was literally like I returned back from the near death experience and I opened the internet and there was this website for this person. And then that allowed so much opening and healing in the body. And then the next thing, it's like whenever I was ready for the next little piece of information, that teacher or that understanding started to show up. And I think that's kind of your story too. So people can have hope, like just keep going. Like it will drop into your lap what the next piece of understanding is. It
and
will.
when you're ready, like I've had like my mind blown multiple times. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I say to people I experience everyday miracles because technically what happens isn't supposed to happen
Yeah.
in a world we, at least in the North American society, we generally exist in. So there's a lot of moments where it's really eye-opening. It can be scary. So you have to go at a pace that you can manage so that things can assimilate or absorb into your system and become normalized before you're ready for the next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
Yeah. Go ahead. No, please go ahead.
thing I really love is the way that you get us to meet our guides when we've gone through those processes. I call it the rainbow bridge, to be honest. Like, oh, I'm going to go to the rainbow bridge and just
Mhm.
go, and it's really safe. And there's one thing I've recommended for lots of clients who are curious or open or really desiring to learn, and I want them to feel safe, is I'll actually send them your way because I feel like you develop a real sense of groundedness. Even though it's light, you're obviously like kind of in upper world energy, it just feels really safe. And I think you have
Yeah.
to walk at a pace that works.
Well, I think part of my work is, like, if I had to put it in one sentence, is like I teach direct connection. But now I'm realizing I teach direct connection to the guides and then maybe secondary to nature. But I don't really teach. I mean, I do, but I don't. Like, my focus is not on mediumship. My focus is not. So, this idea of that's my little piece of the puzzle in the world is to provide that, and your piece of the puzzle is to provide your part, so we're all just giving each other these pieces. When you what
Like a
if you
weave
found,
spider.
yeah, what if you found like it's been a pretty trying number of years for a while. It's been pretty
Sure.
hard.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
what are you finding, like, in terms of clients, because you have a pretty busy practice, in terms of clients coming, have you noticed a change in what people are working on now? Or what are some of the things that people consistently work on?
I didn't particularly catch a lot of the people who wanted to like deep down understand COVID or break it down into an energetic reality. I still seem to get the people who want to know about love and want to know what their next step should be and want to know what they should choose about a career or a home. Like,
Hmm.
still very like, we're living, we have a future, let's keep making
Hmm.
choices in that kind of energetic vein, basically.
Yeah, and like setting up, like, the practical or the earth world choices that will continue to take them to their highest possibility as souls.
Yeah, and to their dreams a little bit. I will say in the first few months, I didn't have very many clients, but I was also one of like a peer, I ran into her and she's like, I'm seeing so many people, but she was really targeting like what this is and what it means to the planet and like all this stuff. Whereas I was kind of just like, I think we're gonna be okay.
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
just had a really different
Over time. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I think this is perfect for what we've discussed, and I want to thank you so much for being a part of this Visionary Psychics series and help people get to know who you are and what you're doing. And I'll put the information down below so people can reach out and contact you. Anyway, it's just been really nice to chat with you, and I appreciate your time today. So,
I appreciate yours as well.
okay, thank
Thanks
you.
so much.